Happy Wednesday to you folks. Welcome to Got Your Back, NHL edition, LeBrun and Rishaug. Great podcast in store for you today. Fantastic interview. Erik Karlsson, what a season he is having with the San Jose Sharks this year. He's going to join us to talk about a myriad of different things, including his sipping from the fountain of youth somewhat this year. 32 years of age, on pace for over 100 points for the first time in his NHL career. What is his secret? It's dietary, sort of. We'll let him tell you about it. Mike Johnson is going to join us on the podcast as well today. Going to break down what was an interesting, contentious night last night in the National Hockey League. Of course, Got Your Back is brought to you by Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals. They provide equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. What sets them apart, though? Their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. It's displayed proudly on the walls of their branches. Every one of their staff members lives by that get-her-done formula to ensure they never let their customer down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need and when they need it. No excuses. Cross Country Canada takes great pride in this attitude and truly believes their customers' success is their success as well. All right, as we check in with the fellas, Mike Johnson and Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, you're looking well rested. MJ, not so much, but you're looking a little peakish, a little pale. Was it a rough night for you, buddy? What happened?
Listen, I don't know what happened, Shoggy. That's the whole thing. I get back to Toronto. I go to sleep, and I am not allergic to anything that I know of in my life. But I woke up middle of the night and I had like an allergic reaction to like shellfish or something, even though I didn't eat any shellfish. I don't know what it was. So I'm like, what is going on? I'm itchy. I'm like, what's happening? But I took some medication and I'm like, okay, well, I guess, and of course you go to like the very dangerous game where you start trying to self-diagnose. You're like, okay, let's go to WebMD and see what I have here.
Yeah.
And it takes you a million different places. But I took like some Benadryl, went back to sleep, and I woke up this morning totally fine, totally normal. So I don't know what's up, but it was a random one-off or something. Like I've never been allergic to anything before, so I don't know what's going on, Shoggy. But I'm well rested. I'm ready for you. Don't you worry a thing.
You know what? This is nothing compared to what you went through. But I was up all night. I get songs stuck in my head, MJ. And I can't sleep when I get certain songs stuck in my head. By the way, we lost Pierre for a minute there. I assume he's going to pop back in a minute.
What was the song?
Well, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you. I don't want to tell you because all it is ammunition, and you and Drags and company don't need more ammunition from me.
That's why I'm asking.
The song "Flowers" by Miley Cyrus.
It's very catchy.
It's
very
been
catchy.
Everywhere. It's been everywhere.
How are you feeling about these? So it's all about Liam Hemsworth and their previous relationship, which ended like how many years ago?
Badly.
8?
Yeah.
10?
Long time ago. Yeah.
Like she's been sitting on this for 10 years.
Yeah. Well,
the video at like a house that has some sort of personal tie-in, and the lyrics have a personal tie-in, the whole bit. I'm like, that is, listen, between her and Taylor Swift and the breakup songs or whatever about their former relationships, it's tough sledding. You got to treat them well, or else you're gonna get a song written about you apparently. So you know what? I don't mind, because I'm like a pop guy too. Like I listen to Taylor Swift all the time. I like, I was playing Flowers yesterday, like the single on loop. So I can't even make fun of you. I wish I could.
I appreciate that, because normally I would just get absolutely teed off on. And we have retrieved Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, we really didn't talk about anything important while you were away. I'll just ask you ever get songs stuck in your head? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, I have this really weird thing, and I don't know where it comes from. I probably shouldn't share this, but every time I jump in the shower,
you should. Yeah.
Every time I jump in the shower, and I don't know if it's a shock of the water's cold at first, but I always start hearing Brass Bonanza, the old Hartford Whalers goal song, in my head.
What?
I don't know. It's just a strange.
We got to unpack this, Mike.
Hang on.
Multiple questions. Johnny, do you want to go first? Johnny, you go first. Johnny, you go first.
Why that song on any level? And what is it about the shower that triggers it? I need to understand this more fully.
It's like all right, we're getting the day going. Let's go. And then I don't know. That song just gets going.
Wow.
Here's a recommendation for you, Pierre, because the rest of us do this. Feel free to let the water warm up before you hop on in there, bud.
I know. Sometimes I'm in a hurry, buddy. I know.
No,
I
he's
know.
one of these Wim
Goodness.
Hof guys. He's all about the cold water shower. It's what he does in the
There you
morning.
go. Yeah.
Whatever
Love
works.
it. Brass bonanza every time I get in the shower.
So now the problem is, Pierre. So now every time I hear Brass Bonanza, I'm gonna think about you getting in the shower in the cold. I'm like, the whole thing is.
We're gonna think about Pierre in the
There you
shower.
go.
Yeah.
Oh my
See?
goodness sakes. Zuby working the controls behind the scenes. You're probably gonna have to grab some Brass Bonanza and roll it in at some point here in the podcast. So feel free to put it wherever you want in post-production for Pierre LeBrun. Okay, lots to discuss last night in the National Hockey League, and that is brought to you by Pro Hockey Life, the breakdown. The drive towards the playoffs is on big time, so there's no better time to outfit yourself with gear from your favorite team, and Pro Hockey Life is the place to go for your team's sweater. Pick your favorite player, wear it proudly. Pro Hockey Life has an awesome selection of team apparel. It doesn't end at jerseys. They got the wide range of shirts and hats, t-shirts, souvenirs, everything you need to show what a massive fan you are. Pro Hockey Life, like you and like us, is obsessed with the game. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to start with the situation that developed last night in Philadelphia. And, I think most people have probably heard about what happened by now, but I do think we need to lay it out a little bit. So you have to bear with me. I want to set the table a little bit on this. Last night, Ivan Provorov, defenseman for the Philadelphia Flyers, declined to wear the Pride Night jersey that the team was wearing, designed to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community. They were also wrapping their sticks in Pride tape. Provoroov, citing religious beliefs, did not want to take part in warm-up as a result of Pride Night. He ended up playing the rest of the game. He played in the game, played 22 minutes. And after the game, both he and John Tortorella addressed this in talking to the media. The Philadelphia Flyers also, when people sort of were made aware of what was happening, they released a statement where they didn't really mention Provorov at all. They basically reaffirmed their organization's commitment to, inclusivity in the game and to the Pride Day that they were having. Okay, folks, the time is 11:23 Eastern Time, and we just wanted to update things. We're going to continue this conversation that Mike Johnson and Pierre LeBrun and myself taped earlier on this morning, but the National Hockey League has released a statement today, and in the interest of just presenting a full story, wanted to read that statement for you. Quote, "Hockey is for Everyone is the umbrella initiative under which the league encourages clubs to celebrate the diversity that exists in their respective markets and to work to achieve more welcoming, inclusive environments for all fans. Clubs decide whom to celebrate, when and how, with league council and support. Players are free to decide which initiatives to support, and we continue to encourage their voices and perspectives on social and cultural issues." So the National Hockey League releasing that statement in response to this story. Now let's get back to our discussion with Pierre and Mike that I'll remind you was taped a little bit earlier on Wednesday morning. After the game, both Provorov and John Tortorella addressed the media, and here are those comments, in mostly their entirety.
Yeah, I respect everybody. I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion. That's all I'm going to say.
And Provorov wasn't taking any further questions on that topic afterwards. Here was John Tortorella.
I think the organization has sent out a release regarding the organization, the beliefs that we have, and how we feel about it, and really a great night. With Provi, he's being true to himself and to his religion. This has to do with his belief in his religion. And it's one thing I respect about Provi. He's always true to himself. And so that's where we're at with that.
Was there any consideration on your part when he chose not to wear the jersey to not play him as a result?
No. I'm not going to answer many more questions on it because I just think it's unfair. I know you're going to probably talk to Provi, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I think it was a great night in celebrating. Organization has put out a statement, and I'm not going to get too deep into the conversation. Those are the comments as far as Provi. We talked as a team and with Provi.
So they talked as a team and with Provi, and that's where they landed. Mike, the league wants to be more inclusive. We're seeing lots of actions towards that end. Something like this happens, and it really dramatically shifts the conversation. What are your thoughts on the way the situation was handled last night?
I mean, I guess initially you're surprised because, and I don't know Provorov's religious beliefs. I don't know what, he is referring to as, I just don't know that kind of stuff. It seems like this would be something that would not violate your religious tenets to the point where you can't participate. So I guess you're surprised that it went down this road. Very clearly, the NHL does need to be more inclusive and does need to be a more welcoming place to all manners of diversity, including the LGBTQ plus community. So it was surprising for me, and I guess like I people you can't make someone want to believe something that you like. You can have a conversation, and I think this is what this like. You can't force someone to believe in the cause that you believe in. That you can't do that. But I imagine like through now, like the conversation that would be in the dressing room and in the team and in the organization, that I'd be curious to see how that goes because clearly players, I know Scott Laughton and James Van Riemsdyk have been both very public in their support of these causes. And like, what are those conversations like, and how do those go? And can it help open maybe Provorov's mind or his eyes to how his actions are that community? So it's a tricky one, not in the sense because it's obviously like it seems a no-brainer. Support this cause for all the obvious reasons that you would want to support it, and they seem very clear. And it seems quite innocuous to put on a jersey, or whether you tape your stick or not. Like it doesn't feel like that would be a violation of anyone's beliefs to the extent where they can't participate in it. So it's surprising, but it's I guess the only would it be fair to scratch Provorov or not play him in this game if he wasn't willing to do that? I don't know if that is I know it's a bad look and it's a tough thing for everyone to have to deal with, but I don't know if they could go down that road, Pierre, of saying, well, if you don't wear the jersey, you don't get to play. I don't know, which I think a lot of people would have maybe liked to see. I don't know if they go down that road, Pierre.
I think I would have, and I know it's easier for me to say, I guess, where I sit, I'm not running a franchise. But if this night was about your organization stepping up and saying we believe in inclusion, and this is Pride Night, and these are our values because we know we have people who come to our games who are part of this community, and you're telling us as a player that you're not comfortable with this and you're against this and you don't want to be part of it, then you're not part of it, period. I would have scratched him. And again, I understand how naive that may sound on some level, but it's tough on many levels. I as I tweeted last night, he started his comments by saying, I respect everybody. Well, clearly not.
Right.
Clearly you don't actually respect everybody, because if you did, you would wear that jersey and warm up despite your beliefs and say, well, I respect everybody, so I should do this. And just, don't hide behind religion. Okay? Like, come on. Honest to goodness. It's just wrong. And it reinforces for people that are struggling to
It's okay, buddy. This is, this affects all of us in different ways, right? This is a cause that's very close to my heart as well. Very much so. And so when I saw that this happened last night, I had a lot of the same feelings. And Mike, I completely understand, because really, if the league wants to be about inclusion, well, is it inclusion only with, people that hold similar values? That would be the counterpoint, right? But I think the point that Pierre's making, and Pierre, I do agree with you. I would have taken it a step further. And I would have had him sit out the entire day. I would have given him a paid day off to just not be at the rink, because this day, it wasn't just about warm up. They had members of that community at morning skate. They did a pregame skate with members of that community. They had 9 different organizations that were part of it and in the building. They had, we've all been part of these things and watched these things unfold in front of us. They have ads on the big screen during commercial breaks and intermissions and special guests. It's the league putting this cause forward and saying this matters to us. And they knew ahead of time Provorov felt this way. I think it would have been entirely appropriate to say, by having you there, it counters the strong message of inclusion that we're trying to make. And so you're going to just not be part of it, and not even in an angry way, just in a, let's be fair to everybody. If you don't believe in it and you don't want to be part of it, then you can stay home that day. And you're not going to lie to the media, right? They're going to tell everybody why, and he's going to do that same media availability. And then the organization has to decide, how it feels and what it does moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'd take it a step forward. I would have had him sit out the whole day, because it's a way to not ask him to compromise something that he clearly isn't willing to compromise, but it's a way to also make a statement that this is hugely important. This is bigger than tonight's game. And we want to put that right foot forward. And, I was reading a lot of comments online, Johnny, members of the LGBTQ plus community. The point they made is that they wouldn't want any false allies. Like, they don't want somebody skating around in that jersey that doesn't really believe in it, taking part in that night that doesn't really believe in it. That's not what they're looking for.
Right.
So I think they could have sent a strong message by saying, okay, he's going to sit this one out. Religious beliefs, we're all going to push forward with this as a group.
And maybe like involving members of the LGBTQ plus community is part of that, like would have been part of that discussion. Like how should we handle it? Like incorporating them. And I guess, part of, like, he's probably played with a player who is a member of that community. Maybe unbeknownst to himself, right? Like, but he probably has. And let's say it's a player who is publicly a member of that community. Can he not, can you not play with that? Like, you just wonder, like, those kind of questions are triggered. But I guess what you don't want it to do, and what it has done, or maybe like, is to take away from the message, of inclusivity and acceptance and of welcoming that the Flyers are trying to put forth, and I guess the NHL as a whole, and maybe on some level, because it's been a pretty unanimous reaction that, like, people aren't, okay. Like, people want this cause to be embraced wholeheartedly. And it almost is. So I don't know if even him doing this takes away from it. Maybe it draws more light to it and opens up conversations that are tough to have, but maybe push it deeper and push it forward with a better understanding of some of these issues. But I guess it's going to be tricky, like, because it's clearly, for some of his teammates, a very important personal subject. And, I don't know how they unpack that as well.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I got emotional. It's just,
It's okay,
I was
buddy.
thinking about, if you're a young hockey player who still hasn't come out, you're like, well, here's why. It's the game isn't ready. And when I wrote about Luke Prokop and Bane Pettinger and their stories, and a lot of the comments I got was, yeah, good for them, but why do we even need to make this a story? Like, why do people even care about this anymore? Hello. Clearly not everyone's on the same page here. Clearly the sport is behind, I think, what most of society is, in my mind anyway. And I don't know. That was upsetting.
There's lots of really great nights that the National Hockey League does across the league, and it's a cause that they are trying to put to the forefront. And I don't think that should be lost on, those efforts should be lost because something like this happens. And it shouldn't be the overriding narrative. But Pierre, I do agree with you, right? This is two stories this year of significant franchises, the Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers, who organizationally have made decisions. And I'm talking about the decision to sign Mitchell Miller, and the decision that they made last night to go ahead and allow Provorov to take part in the game, that, are made by franchises and the powers that be that are, potentially behind the times here, I think, right? That aren't in line with where the values of the game, where the game is saying, here's where our values are. And, 2 times this year where decisions have been made that show, well, maybe it's not there. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think yesterday, and I'm open to the idea that I'm not right here. I really am. I think that's important in these conversations. Maybe
I don't know everything either. I don't know everything either. Let's be clear.
We don't have all the answers, and I don't, we don't know exactly what's right. And I'm open to the idea that maybe that would be a bridge too far. But I think it's important to have these discussions. And Johnny, I agree with you. Like, maybe this happening opens up broader discussions about it, and it's a bit of an eye-opening for people. And I think it's an opportunity for the hockey world to embrace the LGBTQ plus community by getting behind it after something like this happens.
Yeah, you know, lean in, and if you're an individual player, like, you know, the strength of your voice, to lean in even harder if it's something that you are comfortable with and are passionate about and wanted to take on, because, you know, I think the voices of love and acceptance can be louder, can be stronger, and they don't have to be kind of the silent majority. They could be boisterous. Like if one of, and even more so, the closer you are to it, not Pierre, you know, speaking eloquently about it and showing how much it matters. But if you're one of his teammates and it matters to you that way, and you're going to get asked about it today, and if you want to be able to take that on, I think, you know, a net positive somehow may be able to come of this, because it may amplify the conversation, which clearly still needs to be had.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the questions I have, and there's time to talk about this down the road, but with Provorov now, I mean, figuring it out the way it works within the context of his teammates. And again, John Tortorella said they discussed it as a group, and this is what they came up with. I'm not sure if there's work to be done there between he and his team. But I wonder about the player. And there's been talk about this player potentially moving on from Philadelphia at some point. If you're an organization and you have a staff of many, many, many who probably all feel, you know, many feel strongly about this cause, and people who are very close to them on your staff, and players in the room that have family members or players themselves, or, you know, can you bring this player into your organization? Can you take a player who has these beliefs that he's standing firmly on, and can you bring him into your organization and make him part of, you know, your team moving forward? Does this affect their, you know, the ability for him to be moved? And I'm not trying to break it down to hockey. It's still the principle of the thing about what this looks like for this player now.
It's a great question. I don't have the answer to that. I mean, it's a great question. It wasn't a primary thought for me last night because,
of course,
the hockey part of it was less important to me. But it is. I mean, this is a guy that actually, you know, a bunch of us have reported is a guy that the Flyers are actually listening on, that they might move, which was a decision they made obviously way before all this. But now if you're an organization looking at this player, who's obviously a very good hockey player, how do you feel about this stance?
Yeah, it's the whole thing is just muddied, and again, without understanding his religion and where, like, I have no idea where he's
Russian Orthodox
right.
is what he
but I can't,
cited his religion.
I can't
as,
act like I know what Russian Orthodox.
Of course,
of course, I don't know what
that
that means and what that believes.
Same here, by the way. Yeah,
you know, like, what is it? Is this the only thing that, like, why this? Why this thing? Why, like, is there nothing else that I don't know? It just seems like he's cherry picking, but, you know, to make it about this event, and the NHL has causes that they support a lot of times, different games, different initiatives, and generally they're pretty unanimously supported. That's why we don't talk about this stuff as far as players taking a stand. I just, you know, what would the reaction be if a player is like, you know, I don't believe in fighting wars, so I don't want to participate in a military appreciation night.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, what would an organization's reaction be to that? Would it be different? And I think this is all part of this layered conversation, which is so complex and so nuanced, but yet so obvious to so many of us. Like, well, it's not that hard, you know. Like, you know, treat people well. Like, that's it. Treat people well. Treat them as equals.
Yeah,
everyone's the same. But these are all the kind of thoughts start swirling around your head, like, as you're trying to unpack this situation, which should, you know, it should not be, doesn't feel like it needs to be a situation, but it is.
And I hope through discussions and calm discussions that people who were hurt by this, members of the LGBTQ plus community, Pierre, you mentioned young ones, for people who were hurt by this, I hope that the conversations that happen today and in the days moving forward, that they'll feel more of an embrace than they do any form of rejection from one player. Because I think that's what the league is going for. I think that's what is in a lot of our hearts. We want to embrace this community and embrace them and make them feel welcome in our game that we all love. Appreciate the conversation, guys. It's heavy and it's difficult, and it can be tough to get into. But Pierre, appreciate your honesty, and Johnny, you too. That's tough stuff, guys, but important conversation. We're going to get to Erik Karlsson in a minute, but we do need to move on to one other topic. It seems like every week, guys, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks on this podcast, and it's not that we're trying to. We actually have a goal of not talking about Vancouver for a full podcast, but they are not making it possible. Jim Rutherford with his media availability, Johnny from minor surgery to major surgery, but it's a retool, not a rebuild. Bruce Boudreau's still our coach, but yes, we're talking to other people and other coaches. The Pearson hand injury, like it felt odd and off and strange to me, Johnny.
It was a doozy. I mean, first of all, I'll give him credit for his candor and his willingness to stand up there for a long time and take a lot of questions. And so maybe he's speaking to his fan base in a way that most GMs won't or choose not to. So I'll give him credit for that. But you just highlighted a whole bunch of the inconsistencies of that of that wide-ranging conversation, because there's so many things crop up. But the first thing that comes to mind to me is that while he may have been doing the fans a service, he's been doing us a service by giving us content. Like, I don't know if he did his team any help by having that kind of conversation so publicly, because it's just, again, we have to talk about it, and it's going to get louder, and it's almost more confusing and more perplexing as to where they're going with this. How you're interviewing coaches for a job that doesn't exist, I'm not sure you should be doing that. That seems unusual to me. Did you just learn that the minor surgeries become major surgery? Why did you add a couple more massive contracts in Mikheyev and Miller that are short-term contracts when it seems like you need to go to a longer-term solution? Did that flip in the last 2 months, or where was that in the summer or even last spring? There's a lot there, Pierre, to unpack from Jim Rutherford. But I guess the bottom line is the Canucks are in for a whole bunch of change coming up in the short-term future, because that was one thing that was clear, is that they need to change. The joking about tanking, you're not tanking. You're losing. Chicago's tanking. You're not trying to be terrible. You're trying to be good and are not being good. There's a really big difference between tanking and being unsuccessful. So I don't know, Pierre, where it even, it's just so much that it was almost hard to unpack all at once.
Yeah, and again, you're right where he started. First of all, I mean, that's Jim Rutherford for you in terms of his honesty and transparency. He's always been that way, and I gave him credit because he rolled with the punches there and the questions from a really strong media corps there in Vancouver, and he was not trying to duck them or wasn't trying to end the news conference early either. So huge props to that. I mean, he's a president of hockey ops for that organization. He's the next guy down from the owner. So, some people might want to hide right now in that job and not do that kind of news conference. So let's give him props there. But the messaging was difficult to receive for a lot of the Canucks fan base, I think. And in particular, again, doubling down on something that he's told me in a previous interview. He's told other media outlets that it's a retool and not a rebuild. That particular message, I think, is the one that truly touches a nerve among a lot of Canucks fans, because maybe it's anecdotal, I don't know, but it feels to me like most Canucks fans actually would be ready to dig into 7-8 year complete scorched earth approach here, and it's clearly not what ownership wants, and that's really the biggest one for me.
Where are we at on the Bruce Boudreau kind of respect factor here in terms of I think interviews being done while you currently have a coach, exploratory phone calls, I think that's probably standard procedure, but to flat out sit in front of the media and admit, yes, we're talking to other coaches while you already have a coach, there must have been some sort of conversation between Jim and Bruce where it's like, yeah, you do what you got to do, but don't, keep me on until you get a guy. And then because to sit there and say, yes, we're interviewing other people while he's still coaching, that to me is something that you don't often hear, and especially to be public about it, Johnny.
Public's the problem. But see, so this is where I differ a little bit. I like Bruce. I've worked with Bruce. He's a very good coach. But, he gets paid a lot of money. He understands he's in a job where he eventually will get fired and replaced. And he probably, the writing is very clearly on the wall that that's going to happen in Vancouver. So it's the public thing. Like the fact that they're exploring what the vision and the future of their franchise looks like. I guess that's normal. Like, I don't know if it's disrespectful. They talk about trading me all the time. Is it disrespectful for me when there are trade rumors out about a player? No, it's kind of part of the job. Now, it doesn't happen so publicly for the coach, but I'm like,
Right.
he's getting paid well. He knows it's part of the gig. It doesn't have to be public. And that's maybe another theme about all this. So much of this doesn't have to be public, and yet it is, or has become. And that's not healthy for the organization. Getting into the specifics of Bo Horvat's contracts, not numbers, but their perspective on it, bringing up the medical issues of Tanner Pearson. It's all very public about stuff that, no organizations run perfectly smooth all the time, but this seems like a lot of things happening out loud in front of everyone to evaluate, Pierre. So I don't
Yeah.
find it disrespectful. I know it's uncomfortable. It'd be no fun to be Bruce, his family, people that care about him, fans of his, because he's in an awkward spot. But when we're talking about Tyler Myers needs to get traded, but they can't trade him because of his contract, like, that doesn't feel great, right? So I kind of equate it to that when it comes to the respect thing to me, Pierre.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, I don't think that Bruce Boudreau would have been blindsided by this idea that his time is limited here, because let's just go back to last offseason when even picking up his option was not an automatic thing. It was something that was, that they grinded and went back and forth and finally did pick up the option, which was a mutual option, and he came back. I think from that moment on, Bruce Boudreau understood that he was on borrowed time, unless the Canucks really had, a surprising season. Because otherwise, if you truly believed in him, a lot of teams in that position would have actually extended him past this year and given him a new deal, but instead just picked up the single-year option. So from that context alone, this season always felt like, there'll be a new coach either after this season or even before then, I think.
Going to be interesting. Maybe next week we'll get through a pod without talking about the Vancouver Canucks. Something tells me maybe not. Great stuff, guys. Appreciate the conversation. Okay, we had a huge guest on the podcast this week. Pierre and I had an opportunity to chat with Erik Karlsson yesterday. So time for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by Liberty Smart Security, a company that specializes in having your back. High quality, advanced smart security systems for your home or your business. Liberty Smart Security uses leading edge technology to protect the things that you value most in your life. Your home is your castle. Protect it with Liberty Smart Security. I have a Liberty Smart Security system in the house, and I absolutely love it. I've used it to protect my family for the last 6 or 7 years. It's great technology, very usable and user-friendly. Okay, our conversation with Erik Karlsson was awesome, Pierre. He gave us the secret sauce to why his legs are working so good, a dietary hint that he sort of tongue-in-cheek joked about, so people can listen for that. But MJ, what stands out to you about Erik Karlsson at 32 years old doing what he's doing this year?
Not that he is capable of playing this well, because we've seen him. Like, he's been the best offensive defenseman of this generation, right? And I think what stands out is that somehow his body's let him do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because just the volume and the length and the seriousness of the injuries that he's worked through, he didn't think he ever had the freedom of his body to play the way that he wants. And he looks like he's skating much closer to the way he skated, 6 years ago than the last couple of years. So to me, that's what stands out. And then, to have the freedom within the system to go be who he is, because he's quite unique and he's not perfect, but the stuff he does is so good with the puck on a team in San Jose. And you look at it, it's not just the goals, assists, points that are through the roof. His underlying numbers are really strong this year. Shot shares, expected goals, date chance, like all those things which you might think, well, he's bleeding all those just to get all those points. It's not the way it's gone this year. He's really had a crazy good year. Not surprising that it's him, but it's surprising that it's him now, because I thought this version of him was no longer going to appear before us because of his injuries, Pierre. That to me is the most surprising part, that his body's let him be great again.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I certainly didn't see this coming. And, and because of it, what was a theoretical discussion, I think, for a lot of us a couple months ago, and MJ, you were part of it, and Ryan on this podcast, but the idea of a team actually picking up the phone and phoning Sharks GM Mike Greer about Erik Karlsson, that was theoretical And now it's actually happened. Mike Greer has come out last Friday, I think, in the local San Jose media and confirmed, something I reported earlier in the week as well, that teams have actually engaged. They've actually called the Sharks and said, okay, let's try and get our mind around this here. And the mind around it is that love the player, don't love the contract, right? 4 more years at $11.5 million a year. I don't know if they can figure this out, whoever these teams are. First of all, I don't think it's a long list of teams. My guess is it's 2 or 3 teams at most. But number 2, no matter how much you think at a certain AV, Erik Karlsson would really improve your team, and big time he would. I don't know how the math works, because there's a line where the Sharks retaining too much of 4.5 years of a contract doesn't make sense for them. Mm-hmm. But there's also a line where a team picking up 4.5 years is just picking up too much AV and too much risk. He may get dealt, but I think if he does, it actually happens in June, in my opinion, when there's a little more flexibility, not just flexibility in the cap, but a little more of an understanding by then between the PA and the league where the cap is headed in the next few years, not just this year. So I could be wrong. I think it's going to be an off-season thing, if at all. But what Mike Greer has come out and said is that teams are engaged, which is interesting.
Yeah, but part of it is, like, if you want to maximize his value, like, I guess having him play this well going into the playoffs is what would make him attractive right now, as opposed to you wait to the summer, like you're missing perhaps the best version of Erik Karlsson that is going to ever exist for the rest of his career. So yeah, it's tricky. And like, if you're going to eat half, like eating 6, 5.75 if you're San Jose, you're probably going to have to take a bad contract back, and you're like, you don't want to be net 11, because then might as well just keep Karlsson around, because he's going to be better than the contract being eaten and the guy you're going to bring in. So, if you're eating 2 or 3, maybe then it's a different conversation. But if you're eating half, unless there is a sweetest of sweeteners attached to this, where it's, picks and prospects, then you're basically buying those. That's a different conversation. But I just think, like, you look around, the biggest problem is the teams that would be maybe curious to go get Erik Karlsson, to put him over the top, to go over a deep run, they got no space. And they don't have players they really want to get rid of either. So even bringing on a $6 million guy, which probably, as we just said, doesn't make sense, might be hard for them to do, Shoggy. So the field is very tight about who could legitimately consider this. And I think Erik Karlsson has to want to go there for it to work as well.
Which we got into, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's pitted in there, right? He's got the family, a couple kids. Looks like he's got a real nice place, enjoying life. We dug into all that with Erik Karlsson. We asked about the possibility of being traded. Would he be open to it? Would his family be open to it? How does he feel about the rebuild that's happening with the San Jose Sharks? He answers all those questions and gives us a great Got Your Back story as well. So we thank Erik Karlsson for joining us. Presented by Liberty Smart Security. Here is San Jose Sharks defenseman Erik Karlsson. 32 years of age, on pace for 106 points. That would eclipse your career best by 24.
That number keeps changing, depending on what game you have.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to come and go, but the chances of you getting to 100 for the first time are pretty good here, Eric. Did you see this coming before the season? I know you worked hard. You had a quote where I think you said it. You felt like you had both your legs underneath you for the first time in a while here. So health-wise, it feels like it's come around for you. But did even you see this kind of offensive production as a possibility?
No, I mean, I'm a pretty confident guy, but I don't think that, it's been going pretty well this year, obviously. If I could have predicted that, I don't know. I don't like to predict things. I know that you guys do. I just like to play it day by day. I've been feeling good for a long time now. Probably haven't been able to utilize it or deploy it as well as I had wanted to. But internally, I've been feeling really good for quite some time, and it's nice to see that it's starting to translate.
The thing I mentioned about you feeling like you had your legs underneath you, your game is so rooted in your ability to move and your skating. What feels different for you as far as your legs go, and what do you have to do to get yourself there from that standpoint?
I'm eating more hamburgers.
Wait, you're on my diet?
Yeah, exactly. I went back to my old school diet. I'm back. trying to
There you
clean it up
go.
for a couple of years there, didn't work. No, I mean, it's hard to say, obviously. I've gone through some kind of annoying injuries throughout my career. That hasn't really helped. And then I feel like it's finally starting to feel into place, and I don't feel like I'm 32 years old. I'll tell you that much. I feel much younger than that. So it's nice. And then I think I'm mentally I'm in a good stage right now. It's been a tough couple of years for us, and I just feel like it's all just in harmony right now for myself personally, and I'm enjoying the game the same way I did for a very long time in this league.
And Erik, I look around the league. I know it's been a struggle for the Sharks as a team in terms of wins and losses, but I look around the league and I look at the type of games that we're seeing, Erik. I mean, it's been years since we've seen scoring at this level in terms of goals per game and the kind of comebacks that we're seeing in games. And we're going to have a bunch of 50-goal scores this year if everyone stays on schedule. Like, what are you seeing in the middle of it as far as night to night, game to game, as the type of hockey that I assume you love playing?
Yeah, I mean, the game has changed a lot. Let's say it like that. For the 14 years that I've been here, whether it's better or worse now, I don't really know. It's very different though. I've been very fortunate to always kind of been a decent skater, so I've been able to keep up with the young bucks. But I just think that the game is so fast now that it's hard to not make mistakes out there, and every team does them. Every player does them, whether you're me or someone else, and guys are just capitalizing on that, because you can get places now that before you couldn't really, because you couldn't move the same way that everybody can now. So I just think that the game is so fast that every time there's something, there's someone there, whereas before you always had time to recover, and there's no such time anymore.
On pace here for 26 goals. And I wonder, as a goal scorer, like, you've had some good goal scoring years, 20 and 21, a little bit earlier on in your career. How do you think you've evolved as a goal scorer, and what's working for you to push this kind of total so far?
I don't know if I'm a good goal scorer, but I don't like. I like to pass the puck, as you know. I don't shoot. I probably should shoot a little bit more. Everybody's been telling me that for my entire career. There's just something in me that makes me not do it. But yeah, like I said, it's hard to say. I think it's hard to score from the blue line these days. If the goalie sees the puck, like, I don't have, a Weber shot or guys that could really shoot the puck back in the day. You have to get down there, and you have to get, in and around the net to be able to score these days. And I've been getting down there a little bit more lately.
I know. So I cover Connor McDavid here in Edmonton, and I remember his earlier years, and the narrative was he needed to shoot more. And he would answer questions about that, and it was always like he was like chewing on a piece of something rotten every time he had to answer that question about shooting more. I wonder, for skilled players, if it's kind of a piss off when people say that to you. You should really shoot more, Erik. Like, does that bother you?
Yeah, I mean, it does and it doesn't, because I know I should. I just don't do it.
Right.
It's not just, I think it's one of those things that you either have or you don't. Like, for me, it's always been, every time I get in a situation, I always try and find someone that's in a little bit of a better situation than I am. And, that means that you're going to miss some opportunities that, some guys would have shot it. It's just one of those things. I think it depends on what type of player you are and how you grew up, and, how you're kind of wired out there. And I'm wired to pass first somehow.
Erik, we're just over 6 weeks away from the trade deadline.
Fun times, huh?
Your GM. Yeah, time flies. I wonder where I'm going with this. And, your GM, Mike Greer's been super transparent. When he's asked about this, he said he would, obviously, you're such a special player. Teams are probably going to call. I think last week he told the media in San Jose teams have called. I know that he has had a lot of chats with you, I think, about just keeping you up to date on whatever. And I wonder, first of all, how you feel about what the future may hold for you that way. You're in charge. I mean, you got a full no move clause, so that's got to be a good feeling in terms of knowing you have a say in this. But where's your frame of mind on that right now?
No, I mean, it's a tough one. Like I said, I don't like to plan too far ahead. I know that it's a possibility in my future that things might change or they might not. I don't know. So I don't
Mhm.
like to live in the unknown, and I don't like to think about it too much. So I'm going to do what I can, which is take care of myself and play as good as I possibly can to help this team out, to help San Jose out, to try and get us back to where we want to be, and if that change hits at some point throughout this journey, then it will, and we'll deal with it, in an appropriate way. But I think Gracie has done a great job in everything that he's said and everything that he's done and how he's acted through all this. And I think he should explore all his options and his possibilities, and do what he believes is best for this organization. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And if I take care of myself and if everybody else takes care of themselves, we're all going to be fine at the end somehow, anyways.
We had Claude Giroux on a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, and he was pretty forthright in how it was hard on him last year because it was the first time he had been traded. And he said, he just played terrible his last game as a Flyer because he kept thinking about getting dealt. And I thought it was interesting because you would think that he knew that was coming, but still when it came, it was hard for him to live through. I wonder for you, Erik, because you have lived it. I mean, that last year in Ottawa before getting traded was a bit of a gong show because you're on a Canadian team and there's updates every day and what's TSN saying next? Sorry about that. And you have to live that. I wonder if now in San Jose, a different market, but also an experienced player who's been through it. Do you think you'll be able to sort of handle this in a different way?
Yeah, I hope so. I think, right now, like I have a family, I have 2 kids and a wife and, a beautiful home here. And we're kind of rooted here. So I think that will probably be the biggest challenge, if anything. I think hockey wise, I think like I said, I'm in a good state of mind where I'm just focusing on the things that I can control. I think when I got dealt from Ottawa was a little bit different because I thought I would never leave there. I didn't think that was in the cards for me, and it wasn't something I preferred. But so yeah, I do think that I will handle this a little bit differently. I don't think that it's something that I'm walking around thinking about too much. I think that once we go a little bit deeper here, and if things starts to really materialize and start setting in, maybe it will change. But as of right now, I'm just I'm happy here. My family likes it here, and I'm feeling good. So I'm gonna take care of that, and whatever they decide to do about me, it's their decision. And once they present me with that, then I'll take a stance.
Last one for me on this, and then we can move on. I know players are competitive and they want to win, and you've been close. But you talk about the family as well, and I know as you get older, that becomes so incredibly important too. So how do you balance that as a competitor? That maybe if you move, you have a chance to win, perhaps sooner than you would in San Jose, versus the family side of it. Where's that competitive desire to win? How do you factor that into this whole thing?
No, I think I'm always going to advocate that. That's always been who I am, and I want to win, and that's always going to be my objective. I think my family knows and understands that, and they support me in whatever decision I want to take professionally. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to make a move right now with everything, but if it comes down to it, I don't think there will be any issues doing it, and I don't think my family will have any problem adjusting, or I wouldn't get the same support from my wife because I know she wants the same thing for me, and I will never sway from that. I want to win, and I think as you get older and you've been around for a longer time, you realize that it's not as easy as it looks, and you got to hit it right at the right time, and obviously if it does happen, that I hope that I do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Erik, I'm sure you've talked to other guys around the league. Like, that's the thing that's hard sometimes is guys that have been chasing it. Like, I want to go to this team because it looks like they got it. And then it's hard to predict sometimes where, and some teams that have been rebuilding are still rebuilding, and it takes it's hard to really know, right? For sure. I mean, that's what's difficult.
Yeah. You can never really tell. I don't think, maybe last year was the first year in a while where everybody saw Colorado as the, number one favorite to win, and they did. Even Tampa,
Yeah, it's
it
true.
took them a while before they got to where they are now. And I remember playing
Mm-hmm.
Tampa back in the day when Stammer and Hetty was there, and they weren't very good. And then all of a sudden, now they're a powerhouse, and they have been for a while and probably a little bit longer. But all the spots are full, so there's not a lot of wiggle room out there either. I mean,
Mm-hmm. With
so
the
yeah,
cap.
it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a Russian roulette in a sense. I think that as long as you are somewhere where you believe in what they're doing and you're fully invested, I think that's all you can ask for, is to have a legitimate chance and hope that it works out. So we'll see what happens for me.
How do you feel about the trajectory of where you are right now? I know the Sharks as an organization, there's a lot going on and some rebuilding and retooling and some work to be done here, a construction project. If you do end up remaining a member of the Sharks, what's your outlook? How do you feel about the timeline that you might be on as a group to be competitive again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that no one really knows what the timeline is going to be. I think Greasy getting hired as late as he did, and the coaching staff, I think they've been observing a little bit more than they normally would have if they were a little bit more established in the organization. So we'll see where we're at, but I like the way it's going. I know that much. I know that the hires that they've made and the people that they put in charge are doing a great job in moving in the right direction. I've liked everything that they've said and that they've done, and I know that the future here is going to be really bright. I just hope that it's within my timeline, and if it's not, that's a different discussion, and that's where we haven't really gotten yet, I don't think. And it's also a tricky part because, like you said, you never know, right? It could work out really fast, or it could be a little bit of a longer thing, and sometimes that's a gamble you have to take, whether which way you believe.
I saw a quote from you the other day. You talked about maybe thinking you had some left in the tank even at the end of this contract. Are you going to be the defensive version of Jaromir Jagr? You could just gonna how long can you play if you can keep skating the way you are?
Exactly.
Yeah, if I can do that, I think I can play for a very long time. But I want to play as long as I can. Obviously, I think everybody does at the end of the day, and we'll see. We'll see how long that is. I still got some ways to go before I have to make those decisions. But right now I'm feeling good. And like I said, someone told me it was my 14th year at the beginning of this year, and it doesn't feel like it. It definitely doesn't. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, and it doesn't feel like it's anywhere near the end either.
Great. Well, and I know Ryan wants to wrap things up here with Got Your Back, but very quickly, Erik, when I think of you and the way you play the game and the way that translates for Sweden on the international stage, were you upset that the World Cup of Hockey got canceled, or are you just really, the Olympics is what you're really focused on? That's coming in 26, but Sweden's always a powerhouse, and I'm wondering how much you've missed not being able to play at that level for a while.
No, I think that's one of the things that's been very unfortunate, I think, for everybody that's been in these last, what is it now, 8 years maybe, where you haven't really been able to represent your country. I was very fortunate to be able to play the last Olympics in Russia in 2014, and it was some of the best times I've had. The most enjoyable things I've done in my career, I think, especially coming from a smaller country in Europe, where that's kind of what we grew up watching. Was the national team and all the Swedish players. So that's obviously one of the things that's been a little bit hurtful, I think, the last 8 years or so, where we haven't been able to do that. Hopefully World Cup can get back on track, and you can make that a successful tournament, not only for a one-off here and there, where you can incorporate it with the Olympics, and hopefully Olympics is something that everybody gets a chance to go to from here on out, because I think that if you really want to grow the game, then you have to go to those things, even though it's painful for the regular season and everything like that. But I think it's a privilege and it's an honor, and I think that guys that don't get to go are happy for the guys that do. And it's a once in a lifetime thing.
Great stuff. Listen, Erik, the name of the podcast is Got Your Back. We love hearing stories from people about that time in their life where somebody came through for them. So when I put that to Erik Karlsson, what pops into your mind? Who had your back?
There's been lots of people over the course of the years, I think. I was a scrawny little Swede that did not, have much knowledge about life or this sport, I think. So I would have to say when I first came over here and got the chance to play in my first training camp and in the NHL was the late Brian Murray, who was the GM at the time in Ottawa. For those who knew him, he extremely old school guy that could be really hard on you and told you as it was, but he was an honest man. And I find that, he was the one, I believe, or what I've been told, that was really advocating for me early in my career when I probably didn't fit the bill for the NHL at that time. And he gave me the confidence to be who I am, and it always felt like he was on my side, even though when I probably weren't doing my best or playing up to potential that other people wanted me to. I think I would have to thank him for having my back in my early years and even in my late years in Ottawa. And I think that would be the guy that pops into my mind if we're talking hockey wise.
Yeah, Brian Murray's sorely missed, boy. He was one of the greats. Amazing guy to talk hockey with.
He was. Once you got to know him and you understood him, he was a great man. He could be really tough on you, but it always came from the right place, and he always wanted you to do well.
Well, you're not the first one to bring him up in this Got Your Back segment that we do. So there have been multiple stories about him, which is a reminder just to all the people that he touched through the course of his fantastic career. Erik, thank you so much for taking time. Good luck the rest of the way, and maybe we'll have you back sometime soon.
Always a pleasure, guys. I like talking to you. So have a good rest of the day, too.
Go grab yourself some hamburgers.
I will.
Ryan, what you should have said, Ryan, is Taksamuke.
Oh, yeah.
Taksamuke.
All right. That's going to wrap up the podcast, folks. A huge thanks to Erik Karlsson for joining us. Big thanks to Pierre LeBrun and Mike Johnson as well. And, of course, a big thanks to our sponsors, Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, Pro Hockey Life, and Liberty Smart Security as well. We appreciate your involvement here and Got Your Back. Thank you for your downloads and your subscriptions. If you get a chance, go leave us a comment over on iTunes. We'd love to hear what you think of the podcast so far. Have yourselves a great Wednesday. Look forward to chatting again real soon. Cheers, folks. We want to tell you about a truly Canadian company. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals provides equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. But what sets them apart is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. I've been to the offices. I've seen how they proudly display that on the wall at each branch. Every one of the staff members lives by the get-her-done formula to ensure they'll never let their customers down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need when they need it. They don't make excuses. Cross Country Canada takes great pride in this attitude, and they truly believe that the success of their customer is their success. You can't get much more Canadian than that.